Here we go. Hello, everyone. So glad that you could join us here today. If you're new to the channel, I invite you to just subscribe and share with your friends. Today, I have my beautiful friend, Ana Rutherford, here with us. Ana, where are you joining us from?
Hey, Linda. Well, thank you so much for having me. And thank you to your listeners and the watchers. Make sure that you all subscribe. I have to say this, Linda, but you all need to subscribe and just stay plugged into this community because it is so abundantly rich with beautiful women and stories. So don't miss out. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for watching. And I am in Oklahoma City.
Sorry, you're in Oklahoma City?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Community is important.
Yeah.
We really do. We need each other.
Yes.
Yeah, we do. So you live in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Have you lived there your whole life?
Yeah, I do live in Oklahoma. No, not my whole life. We actually moved here when I was 9 years old. My parents moved us here to the United States from Mexico.
Okay.
So I've been in Oklahoma ever since. So not my whole life, but I feel like a Oklahoma native for sure.
So Oklahoma's home.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
home.
good. So moving from Mexico when you were a child, that would have been, it would have been difficult. You would have been in
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. I was in what grade was I in? I think I was in the third grade. I was 9. So it was difficult. I'm gonna be transparent. I don't remember too much of the
Yeah.
move. There's like some parts that just I think maybe my brain was like, let's just not remember it for now. But I do remember that it was difficult because I mean it was a new culture. I was with my family, I was with my siblings, but it was a new culture. We left all of our family. I mean, we had some family here, uncle, aunt, some cousins, but most of our family was in Mexico. I didn't speak any English at all. So it was having to go to school and not understanding anybody and not knowing if I was going to make friends, like not knowing what my teachers were saying. And it was hard. I know that it was hard as a kid. I will say that as an adult, I look back and I see how that kind of shaped my perspective around like certain things, just certain thoughts as I was growing up, especially as a teenager, just being reserved and like being careful and, but it also helped me be very aware of my surroundings because I had to grow up. Well, when we moved here, I had to just watch my surroundings and my environment because I didn't understand the language. So it was more of like, okay, I need to see what's going on. So I became a people watcher very early on.
Okay. So reading.
Just
Oh,
yeah, reading body language, reading lips mostly, even though I didn't understand what they were saying.
mhm.
And so I guess it helped me in that sense to just be more aware of not just what people say, but also what people do. And so it had its benefits. Now that I'm an adult, I can see how that helped. But as a kid, yes, it was very, very hard.
Oh, for sure. So you're reading body language and making sure you know where you're at too,
Yeah.
so that you could get home again.
Yes.
You don't want to get lost.
Yeah. No, for sure. And at school, I want to say that I mean, my mom always picked us up, dropped us off from school, so I didn't have to necessarily walk home or anything. But no, you're right. Even just being outside, talking to friends that we made in the neighborhood, just having to be very aware of that. I mean, every kid should, but I think because I didn't speak English and everything was new, even more so, I just watched everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, just for safety's sakes too.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
and so just with the culture change, you're leaving your family at home or
Mhm.
in Mexico. So there
Yeah.
would have been some sense of loss, some grief there,
Yeah.
and loss of your culture too.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so even you saying that, for example, too, my name in Spanish is pronounced Ana. So when I went to school, it was Anna from the beginning, which is it's Anna. But and then so a lot of people now as an adult ask me, well, is it Anna or is it Anna? And then I'm like, well, it's either one really. But your question is absolutely true because I had to leave so many different things. And I feel like my name was even one of them. And as a kid,
Okay.
I didn't quite understand it. I just kind of went with it because it almost even made me feel like accepted. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, like, at least they know how to say my name. Like, I'm not kidding. That was one thing. I was like, at least they know how to say my name. I just remember as a kid, that's how I felt. So, yeah, it was a lot of just sense of loss, but also wanting to belong to. And it was a huge transition.
Well, and the fear of like you want to fit in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where we're all at, especially as like as kids,
Mm-hmm.
going to a new school, trying to make new friends. And it's right now it's like school's starting up, and
Yeah.
there's so many that are going to university for the first time, or high
Yeah.
school for the first time, or and any kids that are here from a new country where they're moving around. It's everything's new, and trying to make new friends it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much
It-
so.
and that can transfer into everything in life.
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, and two, I keep saying I mean, but like, yeah, so also even as a kid, not being able to speak the language, I see it too. I just felt like I wasn't heard. I felt invisible. I mean, all of the things, which I think as kids, we we just take those things differently. And if we're not given the tools to process what's going on, you're right, like it can take us, we can carry that over into very well into adulthood, and just like in relationships too. Just through a lot of self-reflection as an adult, things that I've gone through, I've had a moment to just sit down and be like, okay, let's start from the beginning. And that was another thing that I even saw was um like, where did my fear of not speaking up, or my fear of saying the wrong thing, where does it stem from? And that was one of the things that actually came up for me was, okay, when I was a kid, I didn't speak the language, and when I did, my English was broken up, it didn't make any sense. So it was just best that I didn't say anything at all. So that was like a mentality that I took on very early on. So it's
I have a
very
question then.
important.
What what would be a recommendation that you would have for people who are in that situation, that know of kids or know of people who are learning the language or new to the country?
Yeah.
How, like, how, what would be a recommendation that could help transition?
Yeah.
Because it's
I
difficult.
it is difficult. I do think that there are schools that have done a good job at providing certain programs that just give more attention to kids that don't speak the language. But also, I do think that as teachers or as parents, like we just have to be aware of maybe what's going on internally as a kid, or just asking questions. I think that was the number one thing that as a child, I don't necessarily remember I was really asked a lot of questions. And I do know that as a kid, normally you're not asked for your opinion on a lot of things, but I do think that it's important that we at least ask the questions and just give somebody the space, even if it's a kid, give a kid the space to just voice what's going on. I think it's so important. I've seen it in my life now as an adult, where I have the opportunity to hold space for women and just listen to what they're saying and
Mhm.
share stories. And gosh, that in itself is so healing. So as a child, I think that it would be even more fruitful for us to ask the questions and to hold this space. And as you know this, Linda, being a mom, kids can teach us so much.
Oh yeah.
And I I do think that that would be the best way. I know that maybe you don't speak the language, but even just being patient, you know, and understanding and just showing empathy. Because I think a lot of times we just expect kids to be respectful all the time and do this and do that. And we need to see you do things a certain way. And we may not know what they're going through. We don't know what's going on at home, or we don't know what's going on internally for them.
Or their culture may be different.
Yeah, their
And
culture is different.
yeah.
There's just so many things. So maybe just asking the questions from a place of wanting to just listen, and I think that would probably be one tip that I think would be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did this affect your growing up time?
Yeah, it was difficult to make friends. But I will say that once I made friends, I felt like it was fun. I just remember there was a lot of doubt. Like a lot of doubt as just even as a young adult or even in high school. There were so many things that I wanted to do in school, like in high school, that I just, like, fear kind of helped me back, or just doubt in myself held me back. And I see that now as it was just that same root from when I speak up, someone's not going to understand me, or someone's not going to know what I'm saying,
The lack of
or why even
confidence.
try. Yeah. So it was that I carried it, and it affected my friendships. Like, it was just like this block that just didn't really quite allow me to really open up. I've been blessed with friends that I've had for a very long time. So I do have close friends that, even my best friend, I met her when I was, gosh, I think 11. We used to live across the street from each other,
I
you
love
know,
that. Yeah.
and I was blessed to know what it's like to be vulnerable and have a friend and rely on a friend and be a friend for somebody. But yeah, like, just growing up, I saw how it affected me. Yeah. There's so many things I could open up right now.
So what part of your story do you want to focus on?
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I mean, I think that just to stay in rhythm with what you're building when it comes to community. One of the things that also brought up one of my experiences as an adult, so I'll focus more in adulthood for me. One of the things that brought up a lot of those feelings was being in a power and control relationship as an adult. And I now I see it as a blessing, but being in it, it was a lot of torment. And just being in an abusive relationship altogether, it's very difficult mentally and emotionally, especially when you're trying to process, but you are with somebody that also needs you to process emotions for them.
Yeah. And you're being held down.
Yes.
So if you're held down, you don't have a voice.
Yes. Yeah, you don't have a voice. I do remember when I was in this relationship, at home, anything I said was dismissed, or I was told it was wrong, or it was dumb, or, or I wasn't really when I say I wasn't allowed to speak, there came a point where I just didn't want to, because I didn't feel like if I said anything, it mattered. So it was a lot of just feeling like my voice doesn't matter all over again. So yeah, no, you're right. You're being held down, and you're just frozen in time, I feel like. And things just kind of happen around you.
Yeah, and that's where we kind of just numb out and
Yes.
and go into survival mode,
Mhm.
and the day just turns into the next day that turns into the next day, right?
Yeah.
And just like, let's get through the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to get out of, well, when you're in it, any kind of dreams that you had or hopes that you had seem so far away and distant that it's almost scary to think that they could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there was actually something that I heard a couple of weeks ago that said, whenever we are in a, then I'll have to find the source, but they said if we are in a state of survival mode, we cannot dream, like we're not creative.
Mhm.
Like it's just not possible for us, because of course we don't have that foundation. Like there's no way for us to build the house without that foundation in place. Like you said, we're just living in survival mode. We're just trying to get through the day. We're just trying to live, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there was no dreams. There's no looking at the future. I mean, there was time, there's more of like building a, like you dream about what would be if you weren't in that situation, but you're dreaming about it because you're trying to survive. Like you're trying to,
That's an escape mechanism, though.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start getting very crafty. You're like, okay. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And how many women are in this situation? Just hope deferred.
Hmm.
And hope deferred can make us sick. And it does make us sick. I mean, I went through a time where I was really sick. Just hope deferred and in survival for too long.
Yeah.
So it happens, and I'm sure that's happening to lots of women.
Hmm. Yeah, and we may not even know it. That's the most scary thing, because speaking for myself, my family didn't really know for a very long time. I was in this situation not as long as some women. There's women that just live in it, and gosh, I pray that, for them it gets better. But um yeah, I mean, I was disconnected from them at one point, isolated, but you just almost don't even want to talk about it. You're just,
So when you say you were isolated, was that your choice to be isolated? Or
no.
was it just the way things worked out, the controlling part of the relationship?
Yeah.
Or
Yes, yeah, definitely the controlling part of the relationship. It slowly kind of transitioned into isolation. There was, gosh, so many different tactics. I'm going to use that word loosely, but there were so many different things that led to the isolation, but it just was not my choice. But I also didn't fight it. I was already to the point where
you don't have the energy.
yeah, it was just one more thing that I had to deal with, and I didn't want to. So it was better off not even trying. But to the point where, so many cell phones were broken, computers were broken, just relationships were broken, because it was things that were being fed to me, and I didn't want to question it. It was just like, okay, you're right, this person doesn't have the best interest for me. I'm going to go ahead and just never speak to them again. Even saw it like once it started to seep in through, like, to my family, the fact, because I had already cut off most of my friends. I didn't say anything. I just kind of backed off, like went into the darkness.
Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
say anything, and then I emerged later on, but praise God. But yeah, like, your family, they're the ones that are going to come and check on you. I have friends that did too, and it was like opening the door, like don't have family over. I mean, just so many different things.
So you wouldn't open the door?
Yeah, there was times where I didn't open the door because it was going to cause a fight. It was going to be a fight. I knew that letting my mom in was going to cause a fight, and I did not have the energy to fight about it. It was just like, that's it. I'm just not even going to open the door. And from the outside looking in, it's gosh, looking back, like I just see how I hurt my family, but also it was survival for sure. Like you don't have a lot to work with. So yeah, in those moments it was very disheartening. I was very, very sick. And then physically you start to actually be sick. I mean, your heart is sick, you start just looking sick, you pick up bad habits. That's what happened to me. I started picking up bad habits. My significant other at the time, he was using drugs. I mean, it was just so many different things. Yeah.
So did your family know what was going on?
Not to the extent that it was, because I think they kind of had a feeling of what was going on, but I never said, yeah, this is what's happening. This is, I need help. But they had their suspicions. I do remember that my mom would tell me, I'm scared that one of these days you're just going to be dead. Like, yeah, I drive by your house. I remember there were so many fights that I had to deal with because my mom was driving by our house, or my dad was just coming over unannounced. And I remember having the conversation with my parents, and they're like, yeah, we did that because we truly did not know if you were alive. Like, and it's hearing it from them was one thing, but then hearing it from other people is a whole different thing. Even people that were friends of him, not even my friends, just people that would come over and be like, I remember there's this guy, this old guy that would come over every now and then. So old guy because he was older, and he would just come by. I had just had my baby. I was battling postpartum depression. I was, all of the things. And then on top of that, this controlling relationship. And he would come by, and I remember him saying, I honestly I'm here because I don't really know how you're making it. I don't know if you're gonna make it through this.
Like, are you okay? Yeah.
Yeah, are you okay? Like, what's going on? But I was just so numb. I definitely didn't have the time to process it. There was no time to process it at all. Like there was no moments alone. If I was alone, it was there was no
So
time.
you're just hearing his voices.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how many kids do you have, Anna?
I have 3 kids.
Okay.
Yes,
I remember you saying you had twins.
I do. I have twins, a boy and a girl, Sophia and Jacob. They're 13, and then
Oh,
yes, and a 6-year-old.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the twins would have been about 6 when
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot going on then.
Yeah.
Because they would have been just full into full-time school and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were in full-time school. And Yeah, they were in full-time school. I had a newborn at the time, and I was out on leave from work. This is like the chunk of where a lot happened. But right after having my daughter, I just really hit postpartum depression. It was very severe, and it just progressed, having to deal with all of this. So a lot of it, to your point, yeah, it was his voice. A lot of it was just things that he was feeding me. I mean, because I had no other outside contact, it was just him. It was just that was my world. That's what was going on. And just trying to really like raise a family in that environment was very difficult. Trying
Yeah,
to
trying to be a good mom.
trying to be a good mom, and like
Yeah.
trying to protect your children from things like this. It's hard, because how, when everything around you is that, like,
Mhm.
so yeah, it was a whole experience. But I was able to leave that relationship, and I say able to leave because it was a long process. The coming back, the covering, the phone calls, and it took a whole lot for me to truly just say, okay, this is it. Um, and just really leave the relationship for good. And I rededicated my life to Christ, and was able to really build a foundation on Jesus. I mean, at that point, there was nothing else left. There was no house there, figuratively, and also uh like within myself. There was no anything left. So I do believe that even in those moments after the fire, I had to
Sorry,
choose.
after the fire?
Yeah, well, I say after the fire of like what was going on.
Okay, I was imagining a fire here. Sorry.
I know. You're fine. But like after the fire of everything that had happened,
Yeah.
and I had to just really, I rededicated my life to Christ, and just really build the foundation on Jesus and what that means, and really grow in my faith. But also, number one, like grow in trusting
Yeah.
God in
I
those.
was just I was just going to say, to learn how to trust again is huge.
Yeah.
When you've been so controlled and so held down, and withdrawn and isolated, to
Yeah.
learn how to rebuild relationships, and learn how to trust and who to trust.
Mhm.
And so when we meet Jesus, that's the man we can trust in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, amen. Yeah, and it's almost gosh, I mean, it's everything really. But from there, you're right, like having to have the discernment to know who it is that you can trust. After, there were so many things that I didn't speak on, but there was a lot of things that happened that really, I just needed to trust people again in general. And it took a very long time. I mean, my daughter is 6, so it's been almost 6 years. And I feel like I'm just now starting to really see the fruit of having healthy community. And, right after that, I was in community at church, but there was a lot of things that were still going on in my head. And as you know, it's a process. Like, the Lord will bring things up just when we think we maybe have healed or made it through to the other side. There's something else there that needs to come up. And it's that in itself is a whole different process. But doing it with God has been the most just safe thing that I've been able to experience.
Well, he has the patience for us. You know, he has patience and he gives us grace. So,
Yes.
you know, but it's all in layers. When we say
Mhm.
it's a process, it's like forgiveness. There's a layer of forgiveness and we have to forgive. So
Yeah.
there's that first layer of like, I choose to forgive. And then we try and walk that out. And then there's the next layer of like, okay, we really need to do this. You know, and so then there's just layers and layers. And it's like that with forgiveness and trust and anger and all kinds of different
Mhm.
emotions that when life is challenging, there's
Yeah.
there's the healing process
Yeah.
it comes in
Yeah.
layers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. Definitely the layers were there. I've heard someone say we're like an onion,
Yeah.
right? The layers need to be peeled back and peeled back. And it's funny that they
There's
say that, 'cause
there's
I
a lot of
definitely see a
crying with
symbol.
well, there's a lot of crying. Yeah, a lot of crying
Yeah,
with onions.
yeah, there is. No, that absolutely. So it's a great metaphor because
Yeah.
there's so many layers, but you know, it's a beautiful thing, although it's a hard thing because there's no program out there, like there's no person out there that's really going to hold this space that you need, that God really provides, and that also the truth that you need, because a lot of times it's not pretty, and a lot of times it is us that need to have a come to Jesus moment and realize
Yeah.
that we need to forgive, or that we need to let go of anger, and how that affects us in relationships. I mean, gosh, we can't just, and I've seen this in my own life, we can't just wake up one day and decide, okay, this is it. Today is going to be better for me. And then just think that those things like anger and unforgiveness are never going to come back up. It's going to affect us. It's going to affect the way that we interact with people, the way that we listen to people. Gosh, we're just going to be zombies. I feel like, you know, our heart is hardened. And I think the saddest thing is for someone to not realize that their heart is sick. And I empathize because I know it's not easy to have to come to that moment and realize that, you know, my heart is sick. I need something else in the world and what it's providing. It's very much a hard thing, but it's very sad to just not even know, um which really I think is even more important for us that have had the that have the relationship with Jesus to even share about God with somebody else. And I mean, that's our number one assignment here on earth anyway. So, um, yeah,
Love him and love others.
yeah,
Yeah. We just keep going back to this. Like we have to just be aware of just being kind to other people.
hmm,
You know, we don't know what someone else is walking through.
yeah,
Um, it's easy to wear a mask,
it's very easy.
you know, so we don't know what someone else is experiencing right now. And how one smile or one conversation can change everything and give someone the
Yeah,
confidence to have another conversation with someone else,
hmm,
you know.
yeah,
It can be easy to isolate,
yeah,
just out of fear, just stay home, and then you don't have to have a conversation, just stay home. And
yeah,
then but that's the isolation. That's how we can kind of remove ourselves and feel like we're safe
yeah,
if we isolate, but
yeah,
that's not what God intended. So,
right.
but it's learning how to be confident and brave and move back into community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that having that boldness, even having gone through all that process, it's so important that we that we really do that. And it does take a lot of bravery to put yourself out there. But also know like God is with me, you know, in these moments that I feel like something may happen, or I'm trying to be safe, whatever it may be that's keeping us isolated. But yeah, it definitely has, you know, I know that one community for me, I was able to see like the both sides of the coin, because when I was isolated in that power and control relationship, there was only one person that was speaking in my ear, but then also there was only certain people that I was hanging out with, and it was mostly people that were involved in very much the world, drugs,
Negative.
alcohol, I mean, all of it.
Yeah.
And they say that you're like the 5 people that you hang out with the most.
Yes.
And I saw my life take a turn. Like I just saw myself turn into what was happening around me. Then of course it's hard not to, but on the other side of the coin, it's the same exact thing when we are walking by faith. And when we have a community of people that can pour into us, or you know, hold us accountable, just love us and just love other people, it really, that's how we're able to build one up. Like, you know, we're iron sharpens iron, and that's the only way that it'll happen. And you can't sharpen your own iron. I've tried. I've tried.
Well, and I'm thinking too, when our ideas are valued, that can
Yes.
make a difference too. So to be able to, like when someone actually asks you to help someone else and they're valuing your experience or they're valuing your
Yeah.
ideas, that's a real confidence booster too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. That's really, I mean, that's when we get to really pull all of our gifts, talents, resources into a community. And it's so valuable because, I mean, the perfect example is what you're doing here, and taking the time to broadcast stories of many different women, because you value what they have to say, you value their experience, you value what God has done in their life. And that is a perfect example of how it can make a person feel valued. It can make them feel like, okay, what I went through, it was for a reason. And it doesn't have to blow up on the big screen where everybody sees it. But if it affects like one person, gosh, that's a huge blessing. And that's what we should want. And there's so many things that the world offers us, but we can really only achieve what God is asking us with other people.
Yeah.
And just loving one another.
Yeah. And I've said it before, but like there's the Old Testament and then there's the New Testament, but there's the living testament of what God's done inside of us.
Yeah.
And we can share those. And that's the stories that are going to encourage other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, because your life makes a difference. Yeah. So is there one, or is there a life lesson that you could focus on that would you'd like to share?
Yeah. So I think really a life lesson would be, I'll give you maybe 2 things that I do feel have really changed my life. And number 1 is definitely just complete surrender and submission to God, and letting go of control yourself. One thing after leaving a power and control relationship was realizing that I was kind of controlling myself. And that was a huge thing.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And actually there's statistics, like a lot of times if life is out of control, we will find something that we can control.
Yeah.
A lot of eating disorders are based in that, just that. because that's something that we can control.
Wow.
So that's a good example of just, I mean, we try and control what we can.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just letting go full control of my life and what that means, different aspects of it. And also, really prayer and getting into the word and what does God say about me? Like, what is, after being fed for so long, what somebody else thought about me and their perception of the world and my actions and what I was doing or not doing. I needed to really find out what it meant to renew your mind, but not just renew your mind, but really find out what the truth is and be able to live it out, not just know about it, but actually put it into action and really do my best, because I'm not perfect, do my best to truly live that out and hold an environment in a space where the Holy Spirit dwells within me, but also within my family, within my home, and being able to, in overflow, pour into other people. And I do believe that that's the only way that we're going to be able to just, gosh, there's so many bad out there happening right now. That's the only way that we're going to be able to shine the light. And there's also so many, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but there's so many things out there that tell us that they are the light and they are the right thing. And it's fake news.
I don't know how anyone does life without Jesus right now. There's just so much going on.
There's so much. Yeah.
We need Holy Spirit to go into Walmart right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, we really do. We do. Well, there's so many things happening. And I asked myself that question, Linda, the other day. I was like, I wonder how my perception of life would be right now. Like of course, the worries of the world, things happen. We have to work. We have to do certain things. But I was sitting there thinking, and I was like, I wonder how my perception of the world and what's happening around me, like if I could see it. Like, I wonder if other people can see what's happening. Maybe with their, with their spiritual eyes. I don't know if that makes sense, but do people realize? And I do know that we realize that we're hungry for something. People are hungry to know something else there. And that's how you start to find so many different things. I mean, New Age is just one of them. There's so many different things out there that promise fulfillment, and it's very easy to find it. It's in the corner of every neighborhood, I feel like. So yeah.
So like as a parent of young teens now, that's certainly a focus to
absolutely.
To help your kids see truth.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely needs to be. I was a young mom. I mean, excuse me, I was 19. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cough. I was 19 when I had my twins. So off the bat,
it's so young to have that
young.
Huge responsibility.
I look at 19-year-olds now and I was like, how was I trying to be a wife and a mom and all of this? So I was like, did I even know what was going on? But I needed to.
Good for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, because I look at 19-year-olds now and I'm like, wow, you're a baby. Please don't have babies. Like, you're so young.
But good for you. You did it. You did it.
Yeah, by the grace of God, I did. And my job's not done yet, but you're right. Like, to your point, I have to equip my children. I have to give them the tools that maybe I didn't have, to be able to process emotions, or to know that whatever's happening around me, like, God is with me and there's somewhere that I can turn there's somebody and somebody and somewhere I can turn to in the Word of God to actually find what may be missing in my life, even as a young kid. And it's very important that my kids are exposed to it, because they're being exposed to many different things. And being like, raising teenagers is a whole other enchilada. I was like, what am I getting myself into? Why didn't
Oh, yeah,
no one tells you these things? Like,
no.
we just figure it out on our own. Like, no one tells you the bad stuff.
No, because well, you don't think it's going to happen to your kids. So
Right. No, never. It would never happen to my kids. They're perfect. Yeah.
So do you have any final thoughts? I'm thinking too, just that we need to know we're not alone.
Yeah.
And that's really important. There's always somebody who you can talk to. And of course, Christ is right there. He's just waiting for us.
Yes, absolutely.
You
He
know?
really is. Well, and I love that you say that, Linda, and I think that's a good point that you're making here at the end of our conversation, because we are not alone. And I think it's important that we say that, because for example, if somebody is leaving a difficult situation, or if somebody is like, I'm done with what was going on here, like I need something new, I need new people, I need everything new. Sometimes you do find yourself with nobody around you, and you can turn to Jesus. And also this community, for example, just sending somebody a message for prayer, or just reaching out to somebody that you know, and God will definitely put people in our heart.
Oh,
Reaching out to somebody that maybe planted something a long time ago, or provided a listening ear a long time ago, that maybe God's wanting you to go back and maybe reach out to them. Gosh, I've seen this in my life, and I've seen it in other people's life. God will lead us to the people that we need. And it just starts with one reach out. Like, it just starts with one message, like, hey, I need help, or do you go to church anywhere? Like, can we grab some coffee? Gosh, grabbing coffee with somebody is just,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I always like, it's just a conversation and having coffee.
Yes.
But I do hope that women will share these interviews and share with someone else, because there's a lot of value in hearing someone's story. We're not alone.
Yeah.
You had said at the beginning you do something with women's teaching them to speak.
Yeah, so I am a public speaking trainer. I mostly focus on training women, and that was actually born out of a desire to hold space for women and their growth. And what that looks like when in a container is really just, yes, perfecting the way that you speak in public, but also storytelling and providing a listening ear to someone that may really need it, and also professional development within that. There's very intimate details that sometimes somebody shares, but gosh, it's so healing to really hold space for women to be able to just open up and be vulnerable and be heard. And there's also so much growth that happens for an individual, that when we hold those spaces for them, it's so much easier for them to then go off into the world and speak up, whether it's at a team meeting or at the dinner table with someone. And that is, yes, I still do that. And I still love doing that. I am actually finishing up a book right now, and I'm excited once that comes out. I'll send you a copy, Linda. Yes. And within that, it'll be, just tips to help self-reflect, like what, some of what we talked about here today, but also being able to fully live life in freedom. And what does that look like? You don't have to be bound to your past. So yes.
That sounds like a really good book.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming. I feel like whenever we start to really, I'm very good at supporting other people and what they're doing. And then when it comes to me, I can overthink it. And this book is one thing that I have been just like, am I being released to put this out now? Like, is this the time? Is this the time? And within that waiting, there's definitely been some preparation. So I'm excited.
That's good. There's I had a picture of a hallway, and on the left-hand side was a closed door, and it was wooden. So it's our past. And then in the hallway, nothing's happening. It feels like nothing's happening, but we're just sitting there. And on the right-hand side, there was all these doors, but they were still closed. But there was healing in the hallway.
Wow.
The past we can't go back to, but we can't go forward really until we deal with the stuff. And that's the healing in the hallway. There's just the purpose in the pause, in the we just have to sit, and that's where we do the forgiveness and the working through the anger and just preparing to go forward.
Wow.
We can't take all that baggage with us.
Right.
So once we're done there, then the doors will open. Otherwise, we just carry it all in, right? So,
Yeah.
so
that's very true. Wow, that's powerful. I love that. I love that you
I'm a visual person, so I kind of I've thought a lot about that picture since I got it. So yeah.
You'll have to send. Do you still have it? Do you still have the picture with the hallway?
Yeah, well, it was a vision, so
Oh, okay, gotcha. I was gonna
the picture. So
okay, that's what I thought you meant. And then you said you get a lot of pictures. So I thought, oh, is it like a framed picture?
yeah,
but I see what you mean. I'm visual as well.
Yeah.
So I understand what you mean.
Yeah. So
but I love that. Go ahead.
There's a lot in it.
Yeah.
There just is. So when you're helping people speak and releasing their stories, and then by sharing their stories with each other, they're going to get healing, because it's actually voicing something they've never said before. That's when the healing can happen.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. That's good. Well, was there anything else you wanted to share at all?
I don't think so. I mean,
that's good.
Love this time together that we got to chat. And I also love the picture you've given me of the hallway and the healing in the hallway and the doors. I've been, one of my big prayers the past month has really been, and I call it a dangerous prayer because it can get dangerous. But it doesn't sound as dangerous, but just living it in the hallway, it is. And that was the perfect description. And it's, I've been like, God, like, just close the doors that are not for me. I was like, don't even leave the window open because I'm going to crawl through it. Like, just close the doors. And the fact that you just bring that today for me, it offered some healing, but also the job is not done. Like, the work is not done. And I am just excited for what you're going to do with this community, and then also for what God has for really all of us and what that looks like. So I'm excited.
Well, I think when we're willing to let him close the doors that need to be closed, then he can prepare us for the open ones.
Yeah. That's very true.
Otherwise we're in the wrong place. Often we're just in the wrong place, or we're sitting in the hallway not willing to go forward.
Oof, that's the worst.
Yeah.
But it happens.
For sure it does. Anna, thank you so much for your time today. Really enjoyed catching up and hearing what you've been doing and
Thank
just
you.
bringing hope to so many women. It's remarkable. Yeah, thank you. And again, for people who are here visiting, make sure you subscribe and share with your friends. It's encouragement and hope that we're sharing. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.